Chapter 1. The Crash. I don't remember the sound of the engines when they failed. I only remember the silence that came after. The kind of silence that cuts through the bones. The kind that tells you, this is it. I was sitting by the window when the lights flickered. Someone screamed. Then everything tilted. The world turned upside down. And I saw the earth rushing toward us like a black ocean. There wasn't enough time to think. Only enough to understand that I was going to die. The impact came like thunder. Metal screamed, glass exploded, and the world tore open. I don't remember the rest. When I woke, the air was full of smoke and snow. The smell of fuel and blood. My ears rang. I tried to move, but my body refused. Pain came in waves, hot and sharp. I don't know how long I lay. There, maybe hours, maybe days. When I finally crawled out of the wreckage, the night had already fallen. The plane was split in half. Fire still burned in patches of twisted metal. Bodies were everywhere, frozen, broken, silent. I try not to look at their faces. I found a jacket and wrapped it around myself. The cold was merciless. I called for help, but the sound vanished. Into the forest. No echo, no answer, just the slow whisper of wind through the trees. The mountains surrounded me on all sides. Dark silhouettes under a dying moon. Snow fell lightly, covering everything in pale white. It was quiet, too quiet. I remember thinking, how can death look so peaceful? I searched the wreckage for supplies, found a few bottles of water, a lighter, and some food. A flare gun, 2 shots left. I thought about firing one, but the fog was too thick. It would vanish before anyone saw it. So I waited. I built a small fire using the broken seats and torn fabric. The flames struggled against the wind. The forest crackled and hissed around me. And then, somewhere in the distance, something moved. It wasn't wind. It wasn't an animal. It was footsteps. Slow, heavy, deliberate. I turned toward the sound, holding my breath. But there was nothing there, only the shifting shadows between the trees. I told myself it was nerves, shock, trauma. But when I looked again, I saw them, footprints. Large, deep, fresh, too large to be human. They circled the edge of the wreckage, then disappeared into the woods. That night, I didn't sleep. The fire kept me company, but it also made me visible. I felt eyes watching from the dark. Every time the wind moved, I thought it was something creeping closer. The forest seemed alive, breathing with me, watching me. When dawn came, I almost cried. The light looked unreal, like a dream. I thought I was safe again. I was wrong. By midday, the smoke from the wreckage had stopped. No one came. No sound of rescue. No planes. No helicopters. Only the sound of the river somewhere beyond the ridge. I followed it, thinking it might lead to a clearing or a river. Drop. That's when I saw it. Something floating downstream. At first, I thought it was debris. Then I saw a hand. Pale, swollen, reaching above the surface. A body, one of the passengers, drifting silent, heavier here. I tried to listen for birds. Nothing, not even wind. Then I saw something ahead. Green. In the center stood an old wooden cottage. Its roof sagged, its windows boarded shut. I saw the symbol carved into the wood. A circle, inside it now, and beneath it, letters carved deep. We are not alone. The door creaked as I pushed it open. The air inside was stale, filled with the smell of rot and dampness. Dust floated in the dim light. The fireplace was still lit. Someone had been here recently. I called out again, but my voice sounded small. That's when I saw them, footprints on the floor, leading into the next room. And something else, a trail of water, fresh, dripping toward the door I had just entered. I turned slowly. The door was closed. I hadn't closed it. Something moved behind it. The handle trembled once, and stopped. I waited, frozen. Then came the knock. Soft, rhythmic. 3 times. Then silence. When I opened the door, there was nothing. The snow falling quietly on the steps. But the footprints, they were there, leading away, barefoot, and steaming in the cold. I shut the door and backed. Away. Every instinct told me to leave, but my body refused. I needed shelter. I needed heat. I built a small fire in the fireplace and sat beside it. The flames crackled, throwing shadows across them. Walls. That's when I saw them. Drawings, carved and burned into the wood. Shapes of people, all with their eyes scratched out. Above them, the same word repeated again and again. Listen, that night I dreamed of water. Endless black water. Hands reaching up from below, pulling me down. When I woke, I was on the floor, my face pressed against the cold walls. The fire was gone. Chapter 2, The Forest. I didn't sleep again after that night. Every sound outside the cabin felt alive. The forest groaned, shifted, and whispered like it had lungs. I sat by the cold fireplace until dawn, gripping the flare gun. When the light finally touched the walls, I saw frost crawling across the floorboards. Not random, but forming shapes. Circles. Eyes. The same markings carved on it. The door. I packed what little I had. A bottle of water, a piece of bread, and a flare gun. The air outside was colder than before. The trees seemed to lean closer, their branches crossing me. Ribs above my head. Every direction looked the same. I picked one and started walking. Snow crunched beneath my boots. The sound loud enough to make me flinch. The forest was endless. Every tree felt identical. Black bark, pale veins, lifeless branches. No birds, no insects. Even my breath seemed muted. Hours passed, but the sky never changed. It stayed gray, heavy, timeless. It felt like walking inside a painting that refused to move. At one point, I thought I heard a voice behind me. It was faint, like a whisper carried by the wind. Come back. I turned around. No one. Only my footprints disappearing beneath new snow. I told myself it was exhaustion, but deep down I knew it wasn't. The voice wasn't in my head. It was outside, and it knew my name. By midday, I found something strange. A trail of broken branches leading downhill. It looked like something big had moved through here recently. I followed it careful, slow. The ground sloped into a hollow where the snow thinned. There I found a lake, frozen, perfectly still, and at its center, a hole, as if something had broken through the ice from below. The edges of the hole were smooth, as though melted by heat. Steam rose faintly from the dark water. I stepped closer and felt warmth radiating upward. It didn't make sense. Everything around was frozen solid. I knelt and looked into the hole. The water was black. Not dark, but truly black, as if it absorbed light itself. And then, deep within, something moved. At first it looked like a ripple. Then it grew larger, rising toward the surface. A pale shape, shifting, reaching. I stumbled back, and the shape stopped just beneath the ice. Two white reflections stared up at me. Eyes. I ran. Branches tore my jacket. The forest blurred into streaks of gray and white. I didn't stop until I reached a fallen log. I hid behind it, gasping for air. Everything was silent again, but the silence felt wrong, like the pause before something speaks. And then I heard it, the sound of water dripping, not from above, but behind me. When I turned, the snow on the log was wet. A trail of water led from the top, fresh, still moving. I looked up, no clouds, no trees above, only sky. The water was coming from nowhere. It pulled at my boots, dark and thick. I stepped back, and the puddle rippled, like something underneath was breathing. I ran again, faster this time. My lungs burned, my legs ached. But no matter how far I went, the forest didn't change. It was as if I were trapped inside a loop. The same trees, the same path, the same hollow wind. And then I saw the cabin again. It shouldn't have been possible. I had walked for hours, in one direction. Yet there it was, the same broken roof, the same crooked chimney, smoke rising faintly once more. I wanted to scream. Instead, I stepped closer. The door was open now. I could see the fire burning inside. Someone was there. A figure stood by the fireplace. It's back to me. It wore my jacket, the same torn sleeve, the same mud on the hem. My voice caught in my throat. Hello. The figure didn't move. Who are you? It turned slowly, and I was staring at myself. Its face was pale, its eyes completely black. But it was me. Every scar, every line. It smiled, a slow, broken grin that stretched too far. You left me, it said. The voice was my own, but deeper, wrong. It stepped closer, and the firelight flickered inside its hollow eyes. I stumbled backward out the door, tripping into the snow. The figure didn't follow. It just stood there, watching. Then the fire went out, and the cabin vanished. I screamed, not from fear, from disbelief. I had lost my mind, or the forest had taken it. The snow fell harder. The air thickened with fog. Shapes moved between the trees. Pale, human-like, but too thin, too long. They watched me from the distance. When I blinked, they were closer. I ran again, through mist and shadow, until I fell into another clearing. At the center stood a stone altar. Old, covered in moss and snow. Symbols carved across its surface. The same circles and eyes. And something else. A handprint. Fresh. Human. Mine. I stared at it, and memories flooded back. The crash. The darkness. The water. And the moment before the impact. The reflection in the window beside me. Not my reflection. Something else sitting next to me. Watching me fall. The altar began to hum. A low vibration that shook the ground. I dropped to my knees, clutching my head. Voices filled my ears. Hundreds whispering over each other, all saying the same thing. Stay. The snow melted. Around the stone, the ground turned black and wet. Hands, pale, slick human hands, reached up through the mud. They grabbed my legs, cold and strong. I screamed and pulled free, falling backward, into the snow. The hands sank again, vanishing beneath the earth. The whispers stopped. Silence returned. When I looked up, the altar was gone. Only my footprints remained, and a single mark burned. Into the snow, a circle, with an eye in the center. I don't remember walking after that. The forest guided me, or dragged me. I don't know which. Hours, days. Time lost meaning. When I finally collapsed, I saw light ahead. Not fire, not sunlight. A different kind of light. Cold white, like moonlight trapped under glass. I crawled toward it, through the trees. I saw a clearing. At its center, the wreckage of the plane. Again, the same broken metal, the same snow-covered wings. It had come back, or maybe I never left. The bodies were still there, frozen where they fell. And among them, I saw myself. My body lay half buried in snow. Eyes open, mouth frozen in a silent scream. The jacket on its chest was torn. Just like mine, I dropped to my knees, unable to breathe. If that was me, then what was I now? A dream? A ghost? A mistake? The wind howled through the wreckage. I heard the whisper again, soft and close. You survived. I turned, but there was nothing. Only darkness and falling snow. Then, a hand touched my shoulder. Cold. Vet. Familiar. I didn't turn. I couldn't, because I already knew whose hand it was. It was mine. Chapter 3. The Return. When I woke, I was lying on snow. The wreckage was gone. The bodies were gone. The forest was silent again. I thought I had died. But then I heard it. A helicopter. The sound echoed above the mountains, distant but real. I forced myself to stand. My legs felt like glass. I fired the last flare into the air. The red light burned through the fog like a heartbeat for the first time in days. I cried when the rescue team found me. I could barely speak. They said I'd been missing for 11 days. 11. But to me, it felt like months. They asked how I survived. I didn't know what to tell them. That I'd eaten snow and prayed to shadows. That I'd met myself in a cabin that didn't exist. That I'd seen my own corpse beneath the trees. I just said, I kept walking. They flew me out at dawn. From above, the forest looked endless. A black ocean frozen in time. No sign of the crash. No metal, no smoke, no trail. Just snow. The pilot said maybe the storm had buried it. But I knew that wasn't true. The forest had taken it back. In the hospital, they told me I was lucky. Survivor's instinct, they said. They smiled, took photos, called me a miracle. But when I looked in the mirror, I saw something else. A shadow behind my reflection. Watching, waiting. They said it was trauma, that I needed rest, food, sleep. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw the cabin, the eye on the door, the words carved into the wood. We are not alone. And I'd wake drenched in sweat, with the smell of wet soil in my nose. A week later, I left the hospital. I couldn't stay in the city. The noise, the lights, the people. It all felt wrong. Too loud. Too alive. I needed quiet. So I went north again, to a small house, near the woods. Different forest, different mountains, but the air still smelled the same. At night, I sat by the window, listening to the wind. Sometimes, I thought I heard the river. Sometimes, I thought I heard footsteps. Once, I woke to find frost on the inside of the glass. Not random, but in a pattern. A circle, an eye. I told myself it was nothing. That trauma makes the mind play. Tricks, but the signs grew stronger. The water from the tap ran dark, like melted snow. The walls creaked at night, as if breathing. And sometimes, I'd hear a whisper from the corner of the room. Not words, just a voice. Mine. I tried to ignore it. I burned the clothes I wore from the crash. I threw the flare gun into the lake. But I couldn't escape the feeling that something followed me. Back. It wasn't in the forest anymore. It was inside me. One morning, I found mud on the floor. Footprints. Water. Wet. Leading from the door to the mirror. I stood there for a long time, staring at my reflection. And then I saw it. Behind me. A figure, pale and silent. It stood where the light didn't reach. Its face. My face. But not quite. The eyes were black. Empty. It smiled. And I smiled back. When I blinked, it was gone. But the mirror was cracked. From corner to corner. Splitting my face in two. I covered it with a sheet. But every morning, the sheet was gone. Folded neatly at my feet. And written across the glass in condensation were 3 words. You survived me. I tried to leave. Ipektsebe. Started the car. Drove south for hours. But every road led back to the same forest. The same hills. The same sound of wind. It was as if the world had folded around me, trapping me in the memory of that crash. Days blurred into weeks. I stopped answering calls. Stopped sleeping. I lived in silence, waiting for something I couldn't name. And then one night, I heard the knock. Soft. 3 times. Just like in a cabin. I didn't move. I just listened. Then it came again. Louder. And a voice whispered through the door. Let me in. I picked up the flare gun. The same one I'd thrown away. It was sitting on the table. Dry. Loaded. I don't know how it got there. I aimed it at the door. Hands trembling. The voice whispered again. Closer now. Let me in. The door burst open. Wind howled through the house. Snow swept across the floor. And standing in the doorway, me, frozen, soaked, and smiling. My reflection from the lake. The shadow from the mirror. The thing that had followed me home. It stepped forward. Its skin dripped with black water. Its eyes glowed faintly in the dark. You left me there, it said. You took my place. I shook my head. No, you whispered, but smiled. Wider. Then why do you still hear me? The lights flickered. The air thickened. It raised its hand, and I felt my chest tighten. My heartbeat matched its rhythm. The walls pulsed. The floor cracked. For a moment, I saw both of us. 2 shadows overlapping. One fading. One remaining. And then, darkness. When I woke, the house was quiet again. The door stood open. Snow drifting inside. I was alone. At least, I think I was. The mirror was gone. Only the crack in the wall remained. A perfect circle with an eye in the center. I moved away after that. Different city, different name. I told myself the forest was gone, that it couldn't find me anymore. But sometimes, when I close my eyes, I hear it. The hum beneath the ground, the sound of breathing earth, and the whisper, soft, calm, patient. Survive. Now I live quietly. I don't travel. I don't fly. I stay close to the light. But at night, when everything is still, I see my reflection move before I do. It looks back at me, smiling, and I remember the crash, the fire, the ice, and the voice that called my name in the dark. They say I survived, but they don't understand. I didn't survive the crash. I survived something else, and it's still with me. Every time I look into the mirror, I see it there, waiting, watching, breathing, and sometimes, when I blink, I see snow falling behind it, and hear the whisper, gentle and cold, as if it's still standing beside me in that frozen forest. Welcome back.